Lions just recovered a fumble.
Bits of wisdom.
It's Harry Houdini, I'm pretty sure.
That's when it kind of becomes Home Improvement After Dark.
I guess that leaves us at the question of the week.
Very good. I don't know if you noticed, Jordan, but a really cool aerial shot of the table. Reasonably funny.
User review.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Home Impodcast time.
That's right. Binford Tools is proud to present a Home Improvement podcast. My name is Adam, and you all know my co-host, Jordan the Brain Lyons. Jordan, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm the truth. I'm the brain. I feel a little bit more kindred to Tim today because we have a full house, and so I've kind of relocated. My office is being used as a guest bedroom. My wife is still asleep, so I'm in the garage. I set up in the garage, but instead of there being a hot rod, there's like a Toyota Prius, so it's a little bit different.
You're a regular Mark Maron, which is maybe a reference that is lost on you, but he's a podcaster that does it from his garage as well. Full house. So we got Michelle, we got Uncle Jesse, we got Bob
the
Saget,
Tanners,
whose name I forget. Well, Jordan, I appreciate your dedication to the pod and to our listener base. Just going to the garage,
Yeah, I felt like after 49 episodes in like an air-conditioned climate, I should get out into the heat a little bit, the Florida heat in the summer. I just felt that was more authentic, and that's what we're about.
A long time ago when we were thinking about gimmicks, I had talked about this. You said it was a bad idea about coming up with catchphrases, but I think yours should be, go to the garage.
What were the other ones that you came up with? I wish I would have kept that recording because there were a lot of really bad.
That's for the dogs or something. They were all really bad. They were all kind of like what a Michelle Tanner would say on Full House. Just kind of like, that's, you got it, dude. Those kind of things.
Just a lot of like really short one-liners that didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, that's the nature of the beast. Jordan, Epfitty, the gold episode, if we're going by wedding anniversaries, which I did for episode 20 or 15, and then I completely dropped it. Well, we're back.
I thought you did it for episode 3. You were like trying to give me, I don't know, what was it, string?
Yeah, I did it for 2, 3, 4, the early ones. But yeah, this is episode 50. Of course, this is sort of the calm after the storm, Jordan. You said before we started recording that if there's one thing you learned from the Richard Karn interview, it's that no one really cares about us. It's really, if we can book these big time guests, like the Karn man, Hurricane Karn, I call it.
Yeah, he came through. He swept up a storm, that's for sure. And
came in like a wrecking ball.
We're hoping we've got some new listeners, and they'll stick around after Karn has left. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't want to reveal too much, but metrics-wise, he was a good get for us. Things are really looking up, and at the end of Season 2, morale for me was down. So I feel as though, Karn has sort of... I feel reinvigorated. My spirits are up.
He got you out of the valley.
I'm a little bit more excited. I'm out of the proverbial garage, Jordan, as they say.
I'm in the literal garage, so
the literal garage, the proverbial one, the one from the Proverbs. I'm feeling good about things. So yeah, I don't think he's listening, but again, we do want to say thanks to Richard Karn for coming on the show, and everybody for sending questions and listening and the positive feedback that followed, and people, I got some texts about it, and it was a big get. I think my parents listened to the first 10 minutes or so, that is really all you can ask for.
That's monumental improvement. Yeah, I had...
Your mom followed me on Twitter, so...
Oh, man. Yeah, you're going to have to tame it down, I guess.
Yeah, my Twitter is just really, it's really dark and vulgar.
Very mysterious, too.
Yeah.
So, let's... I guess you've talked about, changing some segments up a little bit now that we're into Season 3. Is there anything we're going to be doing differently to start out the show?
This season or this episode?
Well, this season. We'll talk about at the end of the episode. We got something a little special going on.
Yeah, this season, I'm dropping the wisdom for a little bit. I just don't feel like I want to do it anymore. So there's that.
I was wondering how you were going to finish that sentence.
Yeah, me too. Once I started, I was like, oh, why am
Where's
I
the you caught up to it though?
It doesn't feel as crisp. Yeah. So I'm dropping that. In terms of new bits, I changed the introduction a little bit. People may have noticed that. I don't think much else is going to change, Jordan. If it ain't broke, you don't fix it. So
That's true.
we clearly, Jordan, we are by all metrics that I know of the number one home improvement podcast on the internet. Others come and others go, and I'm not going to give them
the light of day,
the pleasure by saying their names aloud. But Jordan, they've popped up. They've perhaps even stolen our domains, and then they've just stopped recording. So Jordan, and when I say perhaps stolen our domains, they bought a domain that had our name in it so that they could redirect their own traffic. So the other home improvement podcasts, at least one of them, they play dirty, but in the end, to the victor goes the spoil. And here we are, episode 50. Best of the rest, top of the mountain, gold episode. So.
When they go low, we go high.
Yeah, except that didn't work for her.
That didn't work too well, did it?
It's so sad.
So let's talk about, at the end of the episode, we do have something special. We actually recorded this a little ahead of time, but you had mentioned a story meeting one of the cast members before, and you teased that out, I don't know, maybe like 45 episodes ago, and everyone's been waiting on pins and needles since then. So we finally culminated that with getting another guest on the show, our first guest host, I would say, instead of an interview. So later,
at the end of the episode, going to be talking about the time I met Brad and saw some of the cast members stayed at the same hotel. We did record this probably about a month ago. Mm-hmm. So things have changed. Obviously, we didn't have the life-changing interview with Richard Karn, so we do make light of the guest host being the first person we brought in and things like that. So maybe things might not exactly jive with what has happened since then, but it's a little special episode 50 kind of exclusive.
Yeah, so. and the core of the story is still the same, and still, it was interesting because he brought up the same exact episode, Richard Karn. I'm saying, when I say he, I always mean Richard Karn at this point.
Well, you interview someone for 45 minutes, you kind of earn the right to just he, him,
pronouns,
our pal, dad, things like that.
So yeah, he brought it up. But
this one.
Let's go ahead and get into the first episode of season 3. We've got Maybe Baby on board.
Yeah, I did find there's a little bit of trivia. Just a little bit of brief trivia I want to go through. So. This was the most successful, I think I did mention this at the end of last season, but this is the most successful season of the series by the metrics of the Nielsen ratings. So overall ratings, this was number 2 across the board in terms of comedy. So this is the best it gets according per that metric. And then this is, of course, Debbie Dunning has stepped in and Pam Anderson is out. So
a little bit of a switcheroo.
Yeah, and they tried to navigate that in the opening scene, and I suppose they do so. But that's essentially it. So, Jordan, back to you.
Yeah, written by Bob Bettinson, and this is his first episode of the series, so we're getting something fresh here, although we'll talk a little bit later about how fresh that is. This aired September 15th, 1993. We don't have any plot keywords, and we've got some pretty terrible alternative titles, so I guess we should get into those.
Yeah, like I mentioned before recording, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 because none of them are good, so I wanted to overcompensate.
Do you want to do all 6? Because I have 2, so you could do 2, and then I'll do 1, and then 2, and then I'll do 1, and then you can finish off at the end.
That's confusing. Okay. All right. So my first one is I'll do 2. I'm going to do the first 2. So these are not good. These are barely should be considered titles. First one, Girl Power.
Yeah. Groovy,
man.
Good reaction.
2, let me ax you a question.
Oh, bringing the axe into this one. Nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
Because the axe constitutes all of about 10 seconds on screen. All right, I'll do one more, and then
that's kind of. I was kind of feeling that way too, because the episode is so baby centric that you couldn't really do anything except for try to find baby or girl stuff. I
just thought of a new one. Not boss baby, but baby that's boss. Yeah, forget about that.
Forget about that. Can I do my first one?
Yeah, all right, fine.
Fine. You're gonna let me in? All right. So this one is to the tune of the Britney Spears song. So, have a baby one more time.
Oh, here's mine. Get me pregnant one more time. That's really funny.
So far, so good.
Right,
go again. You got another one.
All right, last two. For's Company.
Okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
That's all right. Yeah.
You do your last one. My last one.
My last one's not creative at all and doesn't make a lot of sense, but it does encapsulate how I feel about this episode, and it's Groundhog Day.
I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to explain it later on.
All right.
You know the movie Groundhog Day, right?
Love it. Love the movie, but I'm not. I'm just.
I'm gonna tease that out over the episode.
Good. That'll be effective. My last one is some machinery going by. Surprise, surprise. All right, last one. Induced labor.
You know what? You said you had some. You said had terrible ones, so you came up with 6. But I liked a couple of yours, and I mean,
induced labor is the best one because I did go to a birth terminology website, and then induced labor. She's trying to induce Tim into having a baby. That was the only one I was like, huh, not bad.
You saved the best for last, which is good. I'm glad that we both. I'm glad that we both came up with the Britney Spears line, though. That's
a
fantastic.
gold episode, Jordan. We wanted to step our game up.
Yep. All right. So Tony DiPola took the week off, so we've got a short and effective plot synopsis by Jeremy, and it says Jill wants a baby, but Tim is through with kids.
That's it.
That's it. That's all we got.
It's just such a fine line. With Jeremy, you don't get enough. With Tony, you get way too much. I do miss the with predictable results kind of
and
closing.
The several typos that are listed in there usually, but...
Well, yeah, that's the nature of the beast. Let's get into it.
All right, so we're going to open on Tool Time. Everyone's very excited, clapping. Al's there, Tim's there, the MVP logo is there.
Logo's coming in hot.
Yeah,
just
bouncing.
The excitement is palpable.
It's bouncing right on screen and up into the camera. It's just full energy for Season 3. Yeah. And it just wants attention, so it's kind of continued the same, prima donna flair from last season. But Al has a different color shirt on. I noticed that right away. It's a softer, gentler color than the reds that he usually goes with. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, Tim has a mullet also.
Yeah, it's long. It's long. I don't know what he's going with there, but
it's quite long in the back.
Yeah, and we'll see later that Mark has really copied his dad in that way. But Al has finished the Houghton Lake cabin. It's all made out of logs, including what Tim suspects is a woman made out of logs. Haha. Tim took his family to the Natural History Museum in Chicago, right near you, I guess. And he brought home...
Right near, literally right, I'm looking at it right now. It's that close. I'm just kidding.
That's what all the construction is. They're working on the museum over there.
Yeah.
So he talks about the perils of family road trips. We get the, the nagging wife type thing here that he's done a lot in the first couple seasons. He also bought some sticks for $15 from the museum. So he's done pretty well.
Yeah, unclear to me, this little bit. So he's making it sound like he brought these things back from the museum, like they're part of the display or something.
That's what I thought. But then it sounds like he got to the gift shop.
You can't do that. You can't take stuff from the museum back. If you could, we don't. I'd have a lot of really cool stuff, but you are not allowed to do that.
Mm-mm.
So you think you bought it from the gift shop?
Yeah, that's the only explanation, and that's why the price would be so low.
$15 for two fake sticks is not that low.
Well, I mean, as compared to priceless artifacts, I suppose.
We need some sort of inflation calculator. $15 in 1993 would be how much now?
$100. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. So before they really get into the sticks, though, they bring out the new tool girl, Heidi. So it's the introduction of Debbie Dunning, and they mention that Al makes a joke that Lisa took a job with Bob Vila. But in actuality, Tim says she went to college. So I which one's more likely? I don't know.
Yeah, what do you think she went back to study? That's what I'm wondering.
Horticulture. I don't know. They do kind of like a sort of, I don't know. I wrote that it was cute, but they're essentially they say home Tool Time has been on hiatus. I hope you enjoyed the rerun. So that's kind of like a little bit meta, I would say, like acknowledging the fact that, the actual Home Improvement show has been away. Presumably there were reruns. I kind of like that, just from a writing perspective. It's a little bit clever. So yeah, Tim, back to the sticks that Tim bought. I don't really know what his ultimate plan was. He's rubbing them together so as to create a fire. I think he's just kind of doing it jokingly, and then Al warns him not to, and then next thing you know, Tim's forearm's on fire. But, it wouldn't have been his forearm that would have been on fire. It would have just been his hand. Obviously there's some padding up there. Al gets the fire extinguisher, and that's the opening scene.
Yeah, with season 3, some things just aren't going to change.
No.
Yeah.
Tim, he rubs sticks together with predictable results.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what season we're in. There's going to be the same things happening over and over again, and this is one of the tropes. I do like that Al makes a joke. What does he say? He says something about like there's basically an idiot, and now we know what the idiots do on the vacation or whatever.
Yeah, they say a sucker's born every 15 seconds. Now we know what they do on vacation. Something.
I did like that line. They are coming out hot and furious with like a bunch of one-liners in this episode, and this opening scene sets that up. So.
Yeah, there is a lot. It's a lot like that early episode in season 1 where Jill is just like doing her best, like Dangerfield, where she's just like it's fire and singers. Some of them land, some of them don't. I think that's kind of the danger with trying to be too jokey.
Yeah,
it's like for every one good one, there's 4 or 5 ones that don't work.
At least they spread them out to like the different characters in this episode. I guess that's good
for sure. So after that opening scene, we're in the side yard. Brad and Randy are playing catch, as I was wont to do as a young boy. We get a little inside outside.
Right before school.
Yeah, that didn't add up. You're right. I think I was so tired in the morning. But yeah, they are outside, just kind of having a catch before school. Immediately noticed. I'm liking Jill's hair. It's a real improvement on last season. I didn't want to be mean last season and kind of pile on, but it's good to have the more traditional look for Jill. Not to say that look doesn't work for some people. I just don't know that it worked for her. The boys are bigger, noticeably. Brad is. I wrote Brad is huge. He's the one that I noticed growing the most. I know eventually that will kind of level out, but
he's been eating lots of Oaties and Krispies, the cereals that we see throughout this episode, and it's been working.
Oaties and Krispies, yeah. He stopped smoking cigars as well because that will stunt your growth.
You can't do that.
Tim walks in. He's wearing the famous. I mean, I would call it the famous shirt. I think it's the one in the opening credits. It's the Detroit Lions like XXL shirt.
Yep.
That's a cool touch.
It's been a while since we saw that, I think.
Yeah, well, he hasn't done laundry in a long time, so
we're getting back to basics here. So
yeah, back to reality. Jill's sister is having a baby.
Yeah, she's pregnant.
She's pregnant. I did notice that, and this kind of makes me mad only because it's just like sort of lazy, but I don't usually get a kick out of like IMDb goofs. But apparently, this is the only episode where there's a sister named Carol. Like. Throughout the rest of the season, she has like 4 sisters, and Carol's not one of them. So you wonder like why they didn't just look back to the episode with
Robin,
like, Nana or Rob. Like, yeah, why don't they just use one of those names? I just can't help but thinking that is very, very.
This is Bob's first episode. He got a little too cute.
This doesn't.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It seems like there should be some sort of like QA on this.
Isn't there just like a binder that these writers can open up for just like. I don't know, like background on all of the characters so that those kind of mistakes don't happen. But I feel like this, in Home Improvement, the first 3 seasons, like those kind of things happen often. Like there's an Uncle Steve that I don't think is going to come back later on. There's just tons of like relatives that...
They're coming out of the woodwork,
Isn't that what happens when you hit number 2 in the Nielsen's, baby? So Jill's sister's having a baby. There's talk about Jill says it's a miracle. Tim says that's not a miracle. The 1980 Olympic hockey team is a miracle. And they just kind of banter back and forth on that.
Yeah,
right?
I guess it sets up the episode. It's like
that?
Another cold open almost. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of sets up the episode. There's not a lot going on here. We do also hear the car horn. I guess he's got a horn for it. So yeah, the hot rod's still there.
We also hear the bus horn.
That's a little bit later, but yeah, I mentioned that. Yeah. I wrote that down too. It's a little bit different. It's a little deeper.
Different. Well, it's a new school year, different bus driver, so
they bring their own horns every year.
It's BYOH, yeah. Bio.
Later at home, Jill is upstairs. She's she's talking on the phone to her sister. Jill likes the name Laura. Carol likes the name Sloan, and
then Tim fake vomits.
Yeah, he doesn't like that name.
Jordan, we graduated with the Sloan. Do you think she listens to the podcast?
She's probably not a fan of Home Improvement just because of this episode, I would think.
Yeah, this is enough to turn you off. And Jordan, of course, your mom's name is Laura.
Yeah, so
Jill's fun kind of connection. Yeah. Big fan of the show. She's gonna like this.
Yeah, she is. She knows her name's good too. So Jill reinforcing it. She might get a little cocky now.
She might peacock around the on her blog. She comments on our blog post often. I hope she doesn't come in with a kind of a sense of arrogance next time.
We'll see.
I don't worry about it.
Time will tell. So Jill's excited because it's a girl. There's a paint joke about painting the nursery pink, and Tim says, "Is it going to be flat or semi-gloss?" So again, just continuing these like one-liners one after another. Jill is going.
Yeah, that one went way over my head.
Oh well, as a dad who has my dad's a painter, so I got that joke. I actually chuckled at that one, so that one worked for me.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
So they sprinkle in jokes for people who have painting backgrounds, people who like Rodney Dangerfield.
A lot of people have that. A lot of people have dads that paint, so like that is a good joke to make because it reaches a lot of people.
Everyone in the audience, basically.
Almost everyone gets that joke.
You know what's funny? Regardless of the joke, or if it's even a joke, sometimes the studio audience does laugh.
I think there's a laughter sign that lights up or something.
There must be. I think later in this episode I'll talk about it, but there's a part where it's not supposed to be funny at all, and the audience laughs. So perhaps there was a malfunction there. But Jill's going through some old baby stuff, and this is building up her baby fever. She sees like little booties and hats and bibs and all that kind of stuff, and she talks about how she wanted a girl and she never got one. And Tim right away is turned off by this conversation.
Well, this is where Jill says, "Get me pregnant one more time."
She sings it too.
Yeah, it's cool. It's weird because the song hadn't come out yet.
Yeah.
But whatever.
You went fabulous.
Yeah, this is it's just setting up what's to come. Tim says no. And Jill, she's ready. She wants another one. Logistically, how this is going to work when Jill seems like the most stressed person in existence with just the 3 kids in the job, I don't know. But at this point, she thinks it's a good idea. So
yeah, rationalization goes out the window in this scene for her. Later downstairs, the boys are watching Goosebump Theater.
Well, we get Jordan.
Oh, sorry.
We get a spooky ghost graphic.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's just really spooky. I was like, wait, Halloween episode.
I was very confused because I thought this isn't October yet, and this is way too early to have a Halloween episode. But yeah, they're watching Goosebump Theater.
Yeah, that's funny because it's like, they couldn't. It's like, what are you guys watching? Goosebump Theater? I mean, Goosebump Theater. Please don't. We don't want to pay you any money for mentioning your show, Goosebump Theater. I said not Goosebumps, not to be confused. That's Goosebumps Theater. So
I wish they would have went on a little thing to clarify like that. That would have been pretty good, actually.
Yeah, not Goosebumps though. We're not paying you crap, R.L. Stein. You get enough money.
Back off.
Right?
Back off.
Yeah.
Did you watch a lot of scary movie? I mean, you're a movie aficionado. We both like movies. Did you watch?
Understatement.
Yeah. Did you watch? Did you watch a lot of scary movies growing up?
I did, and I do. In the last week, I've watched all 3 Insidious movies because I'd never seen them before.
Wow.
So I've always really liked horror movies, and I continue to this day. I did like the Goosebumps TV show as well.
Yeah,
but
that was pretty good.
I've always been into it. It's a thing that I think my father ingrained in me when I was young. We watched a lot of horror movies, and I, for whatever reason, still enjoy them.
I was never a big fan. I don't know. I do remember.
That's because you're a coward.
Yeah, I'm really afraid. I'm afraid just thinking about Goosebump Theater. So imagine me watching Scream or something.
The reason you didn't want to mention the ghost graphic is because it spooked you too much.
I was hoping you wouldn't bring it up.
I know, I didn't want to. But...
So Tim comes in. There's a scary movie going on, blah, blah, blah. They give him a hard time for this blanket that he has over his shoulder, and this is something that Jill got out from the baby box, and it's this pink blanket that she made herself when she thought she was going to have a girl, or was hoping to have a girl.
Yeah, that's what they set up in the last scene. We didn't mention that Jill did think that she expected Mark to be a girl, so she knitted a pink blanket. And I'm thinking, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's the way things turn out.
That explains a lot,
Sure does. So this news is also relayed to the boys.
Should have been.
And it's a bad idea because they are monsters. And immediately Randy is thinking about how he can tease Mark with this. So
yeah.
We see this is the same scene, correct? Or is this later?
Yeah, Mark is Mark. Basically, Tim comes down. The boys exchange. The boys razz their dad, which is always just like, if you're a dad, just like you gotta nip that in the bud, man. Tim does some jokes with the Rattler, saying it's Randy's brain.
Adam, you're going to be an authoritarian father, aren't you? You're going to step on your kids' throats.
I'm not gonna let my kids talk to me like this. I mean, I didn't talk to my dad like this. At least not.
You're not
so often.
You're not. Not until you were a teenager, at least.
At least not when I was 8. No. They Tim leaves, and they know they have this newfound knowledge. So Mark's outside doing
whatever
young boys that don't have siblings or are alone too much do. Something that I found myself doing a little bit when I was younger is he has a baseball glove in the ball, and he just throws it up in the air, and then he catches it himself. And he throws it up in the air. I'd be lying if I told you I didn't do that a time or two. But they bring him in, and they break the news, and they say, like, yeah, Mom wanted a girl. That's why she wants you to bake and stuff. She's trying to, like, make you into a little girl. Very, very mean. But also, like, what do we expect at this point? So, and Mark takes it poorly.
Wow. It's almost like we've seen this before. Almost like it's Groundhog Day. Next morning.
Oh. And then Mark says, "That's not true. I'm a boy."
All right, so next morning at home, Mark comes in, and he's going upstairs. Tim and Jill are hanging out. The bus honks. This is where we get that new, deeper horn that we were talking about. The boys come down, and Brad has a dentist appointment or something like that. Is this after school, I suppose? He has a dentist appointment. So
yeah, that's why she doesn't want him to get a detention so he can get out of it.
Yeah, troublemaker. Jill says that we are going to bake with Mark, and Mark says, "No, I'm never baking again," and starts freaking out. And the crowd laughs at this. This is where the crowd laughs.
I thought it was funny too, though. Actually, I think it's funny just because, like, so Mark says, like, I'm never baking again, or like, I don't want to bake anymore, and like Jill immediately is like, there's something wrong with Mark. This kid loves to bake. There's no way he's going to say he doesn't want to bake unless there's something very, very, very wrong.
This is not in his character at all.
I got a kick out of it just in that regard, because that is like, wow. I mean, he must be troubled if he's not baking again. Knowing what we know about this kid, he loves to bake.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time before when he stopped baking and things really got rough. And then a little bit later, that's what leads into his goth stage. He stops baking.
Yeah. I do think there's something to be said for that, Jordan. I don't have anything to say about it, but I do think you're onto something with that.
I am onto something. Randy here says he's going to miss Mark's brownies.
That was funny.
Yeah, I like that line. One of the better one-liners in the episode. So the boys are gone, and during this whole conversation, Tim was in his paper and not paying attention. He was zoning out, and so Jill tries to get his attention. And he kind of missed the whole conversation. But Jill also wants to talk about the baby again, and Tim doesn't. So she brings up that conversation. Tim avoids the conversation. He says he's shutting the door on the conversation. It's not even a consideration, and end scene, I suppose.
Yeah, I think this is where there are maybe some jokes about Jill. Tim says, "I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night," and Jill says, "You mean you don't want to wake me up in the middle of the night?" And then there's a joke about, like, Tim not wanting to.
He's not even awake.
Sex.
Yeah, he's not even awake enough to wake her up and do that, let alone
into bone zone sort of stuff. So yeah, it's they can't handle it.
Did you say bone zone?
Yeah. What do you call it?
I don't know that I have a specific term like that.
Gold episode, baby! Episode 50. Rules need not apply. All right. Tool time. Time, baby. Salute to sharpeners. This is where the "Let Me Ask You a Question" title came into play. Obviously, very good. Tim begins to go into a Tim-like diatribe, and Al says, "I thought you weren't going to talk about your personal life this season." And then Tim says something to Al, like, "You could talk about your personal life if you had one."
He also says that he had his fingers crossed. So
yeah, that was all right. They're sharpening an axe rather, and then Tim says he wants to shave Al with the axe, but he's not down with that, and he shouldn't be, because we know what Tim does, in such situations.
Luckily,
so they bring out an Al mannequin. Yeah. And what'd you think of this?
It was very creepy.
It looked a lot like him.
I thought it was a pretty good replica. It was obviously the same people who worked on the Tim dummy worked on this.
Yeah, they're good. Whoever's doing this stuff is pretty good. Because it did look quite a bit like Al. Yeah, it was scary. It's the kind of thing where, like, if you saw it in real life, I think it'd kind of scare you.
Absolutely, it just stares at you.
You were afraid of you were afraid of the ghost.
Yeah, imagine how frightened I would be.
I almost called it a goose graphic. Yes, terrifying goose.
Geese
graphic.
are much worse than ghosts, so I'm glad it was just a ghost.
They're universally more mean. We have geese around this apartment complex, and you walk too close to them, they'll hiss at you. Whereas, like, I've never had that kind of experience with a ghost.
No, they're actually pretty friendly. They're just inviting you to come to the other side and stuff. It's kind of nice.
Well, there's one that's Casper. The titular Casper. He was particularly friendly. And of course, Jennifer Zdarsky was in that movie. So we bring it all full circle, and we return to this episode.
I hear some beeps. Is everything okay?
That coffee maker's done. So I'll get a cup of Joe.
I thought being in the garage, I might have some extra noises, but it sounds like you're just holding up that end like usual.
Yeah, it's just this suburban living. It just the world. You think when you record your home improvement podcast, the world stops, Jordan, but people continue, and man continues to persevere. So that's a gold episode 50. So Tim, he brings out the mannequin so that he can use his axe to shave it.
Yeah, shave the beard.
But there's an accident, and there's not actually an accident. I'm assuming that the mannequin was just rigged this way. But the head does fly off, and he in effect decapitates the Al figure.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. I don't know. The funniest part, I think, is just seeing the mannequin. In terms of what follows, it's just sort of okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. Later at home, Mark, he's playing on the computer. He's typing excessively hard. I don't know if he's playing Doom or what he's doing, but he's working hard on the computer over there. And he doesn't want cake, which is another, huge surprise. Not only does he not want to bake the cake, he doesn't want to eat the cake. Who is this kid?
Yeah, who turns down angel food cake? What kind of a monster?
He doesn't want his mom to call him sweetie, and he finally comes out with it. He comes out with this story, and even though he should know better than to listen to his brothers, he is still naive. Another season in, and she sits him down at the table, and she talks about how much she loves him. She tells this story about how he wanted a dog, and he got a turtle. And he still loved that turtle so much, even though it wasn't exactly what he wanted in the dog. And he would never traded the turtle for anything anyways. So
here's the deal, though. Like, she shouldn't have told him that. It doesn't... That doesn't make any sense. Why would you ever admit that? Even if that is the truth, like, what good is that information? Like, you're not beholden to tell the truth to your child in every sense. So, like, if he asks you if you'd rather have a girl than having him, like, you just lie and say no. Like, what's the big deal? I don't understand why she would tell the truth.
She lies later on during the scene because she said she would give away the other two boys. So she's really playing fast and loose here.
It just is like, if you're in that position, I think you just lie. Or, like, I don't know. It's just, why tell him? What do you stand to gain? That's not going to make him feel better. Like, I'm pretty sure if I were Mark, I found out that my parents wanted to have a girl, like, I would feel upset. I think that would make me feel bad, especially as a 7-year-old boy. I just can't imagine what he's going to do with that information. I don't know.
I guess I just don't care. I wouldn't care. I don't know. I mean, what control do you have over that?
None, but, like, you have no control over it, but also, like, what does she think she stands to gain by telling him that, in fact, she did want to have a girl, other than, like, being honest with him? But, like, since when do you need to be, like, honest with, like, you don't need to be, like, honest about the realities of life with your 6-year-old.
I don't know.
I don't think.
Well, as this conversation goes on, you've downgraded him from, like, an 8-year-old to a 7-year-old to a 6-year-old. So by the end, he's going to be a baby.
I use the ages to further my points throughout. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't see the need for her to tell him the truth, but that's just me.
I mean, I definitely understand with her wanting to be honest. Like, if that's the way that she wants to go, this is a fine way to do it. But it's not. I don't know. You kind of have to expect he's not going to be super excited about that conversation. But
it's not great news. I mean, it's not like exciting. It's not a joy to hear.
But at the very end, you know what? Mark eats the cake.
He has his cake and he eats it too.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that's the good part. So
while all this is happening, Tim, he meanders out to the side yard. He comes across his dearest friend, Wilson W. Wilson, and we're going to play our first clip here. First and only clip.
Dobrinian, good neighbor. That's Russian for Heidi Ho. I'm playing chess by mail with a grandmaster in Moscow.
Got a minute?
Tim, I am your pawn.
Jill wants to have another baby.
Well, Tim, I'm not sure I can help you there.
That's not the area I'm having trouble with. Her sister, Carol, is having a little girl. And I think it's stirring stuff in Jill. I think she'd like to have a little girl.
And I get the feeling that you're not happy about the event.
I like the things just the way they are. The house, the kids, Jill. I have 276 power tools.
So what you're telling me, Tim, you feel your life is complete.
Yeah, in a manner of speaking, sure.
Well, maybe Jill doesn't feel the same way.
And what's that supposed to mean?
I think what Jill is after is a legacy.
A Japanese car.
That's a good one, Tim. That's a good one.
A legacy. Something that's passed down, like generational. Something.
Exactly. And that's what you have with your sons. You'll be able to pass on your accumulated wisdom, the things you've learned about being a man.
Oh, we've already started that, yeah. Last weekend I taught them all how to burp the alphabet.
Actually, I'm talking about more than burping. You see, Tim, what your sons give you is immortality, and I think maybe that's what Jill wants, to see a part of herself live on.
So that's why she'd want a girl. Thanks, Wilson. You've been a help.
So Tim, he talks to Wilson. He confides in him. He says that Jill wants to have a baby. Wilson says that he doesn't know if he can help with that. Somewhat funny line. They just kind of talk about the situation. Tim is pretty happy with his life. He feels it's complete. He's got 256 power tools. He likes things the way they are. But Wilson explains that maybe Jill wants to leave a legacy. Like Tim has these 3 boys that he can pass things down to, burping, whatever, and interests in cars and things like that, whereas Jill doesn't really have that. So it doesn't take a lot to convince Tim here.
No.
It's a fine fence segment. There's really not that much to it. Essentially, Wilson
it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's pretty good. It doesn't go on too long, which I do appreciate. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. You found it effective?
Yeah, I mean, he does a good job of explaining, the legacy thing and how, the sons can be an extension of you, and she doesn't have that. So, right. Tim doesn't do a great job of empathizing here, and this conversation hopefully opens up his thinking. So it's pretty
opens
effective.
Up his mind, opens up his heart. So much so that they head inside, and I don't know, a little bit later, but He says to Jill that he will, in fact, talk about having a daughter, which at this point Jill has decided that she no longer is interested in. So kind of like, what was the point of the episode? But she says there's no time. We might end up having another boy. We've got our hands full as it is. And then Tim says, what was the point? Tim is asking what I think we're all asking, what was the point of all this? And she said, well, I just wanted to be able to talk about it. So I don't know.
Yeah, she wanted to feel heard.
Yeah, which makes sense, I suppose, but doesn't really make for great television, I would say. But
no.
So very, very end, final scene before the bloopers. They're about to get down to it, which is pretty common practice for a home improvement episode. It's got to end in something sexual.
Home Improvement After Dark.
Usually with Tim and Jill. No, always with Tim and Jill. Tim, they begin to kiss. She's dressed in sort of a sexy sort of nightgown. Tim's he's got his tank top and his boxers, and it's suggestive in all the right ways. So they begin to kiss, and Tim says that Jill needs to brush her teeth. She already did it once, but she needs to do it again. And instead of being kind of bothered by it, she's like, "Oh, okay." She goes and does it. Tim has been stashing the Al mannequin in the closet. He brings it out, puts it in the bed, and covers it up. Jill comes out, and I feel like this was a pretty big missed opportunity, but she immediately knows it's Al, and she says, "What are you doing here, Al? It's not Tuesday," which I didn't think was funny at all, but the audience really loved it. So
I
don't
thought
know.
it was kind of funny.
I
thought that it was
funny.
good that she...
I wanted to see
first of all,
her like going under the cover. I wanted to see like. I mean, I guess I wanted to see.
You wanted her to fill up the mannequin?
I wanted some foreplay with the mannequin. Like I wanted to at least like see her like think it was Tim for a second, but she immediately gets out there and is like, "Oh, it's Al. What are you doing here?" I don't know. I feel like they could have taken it a little further. Missed opportunity.
Well, when the scene first starts, I think that he comes out and he obviously just went to the bathroom. I thought it was just going to be him wanting her to smell how bad his bathroom attempt was, and
what makes you say that it was just an attempt and he wasn't successful?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes he doesn't finish the job, so you just never know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I thought. That's where I thought this was going, and then with her reaction and saying that it's not Tuesday, basically saying that Al is like the other man in the situation. I thought that was kind of funny in a clever way for her to take it.
Yeah, it didn't work for me as much, but I did appreciate the attempt. It was a little bit different, kind of a funny way to end the episode. And then the final scene is we get some bloopers, and it's what is it a blooper of? I've already forgotten.
Tim gets tongue tied when he's talking about the Miracle on Ice.
Yeah, that's that.
It.
And here we are with Maybe Baby. So first episode of season 3 is in the books. Jordan, what do you think of this one? Highs and lows?
Yeah, I didn't like it that much, to be honest. I liked it better the first time, and when I watched it the second time, it got very old very quickly. As I said with my title, I thought it was just another recycled episode. There were lots of one-liners, some good, some bad. It did feel more playful, I guess, in that way, which I kind of liked, that there was a lot of jokes. It was a little bit lighter humor. And I thought Wilson did a good job of breaking things down for Tim, but Mark is still naive. Tim makes the one-sided decision, and it causes an argument. The boys continue to torment Mark. You would think by now the little brother tax, his parents are aliens, all these things that they've done to him, he would learn. Wilson sets Tim straight, and then Tim delivers the news or the wisdom wrong, like he usually does. And there's even another dummy. We've had the dummy thing before. So it's a lot of the same stuff over and over again, which wasn't great for me. So I would say not off to like a blazing fast start into season 3. Okay.
I was maybe a little higher on it than you were. I think everything you said is valid. I guess I thought it was. I thought it was funny. Throughout it, I did enjoy. I liked the Al mannequin.
I think some of the lines did land for me, but other than that, I didn't.
The jokes were plentiful. Maybe sometimes at the episode's expense, but the ones that landed, I liked. The dummy was good. I appreciate the attempt at the final scene, even though the joke didn't really do it for me. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. I guess looking back, I'm not sure why I liked it as much as I feel like I did. But
this was the Karn effect.
Yeah, maybe I'm just like high on Home Improvement as a whole. But yeah, the Wilson scene was good. Tim, I found the performance kind of enjoyable. I don't know. I enjoyed it a little bit more. I would say in terms of like the lows, yeah, it definitely everything we've seen before, which is it grows tedious and tiresome. But I don't know how we necessarily are going to navigate that moving forward because it just does seem to keep happening. I would say. Oh, what else would I say? The problem with the Brad and Randy thing is like, so they bring this up to Mark and they just kind of drop out of the episode. So you're definitely right in that we have seen them play these pranks before, but like if they're going to do it, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that. Basically, they tell their brother, and that's kind of the end of it. I would have liked to have seen them kind of heighten that a little bit more. But yeah, it is not a spectacular thing to continue to see like Mark falling for foolish things. And I didn't, like I said earlier, I didn't necessarily feel like Jill needed to tell Mark that she did want to have a girl, even though maybe it, being honest is the best policy. I didn't feel like it was the best policy in this regard. But for me, the jokes landed enough to found it funnier than a lot of what we saw at the tail end of season 2. So
okay, well that is episode 50. Maybe baby.
Maybe.
Social media?
Yeah, we can talk a little social media, Jordan. Why don't you lead us off, and then I'll come in with some Twitter.
Yeah, so we're into season 3, and we still want to hear from everybody, so please feel free to reach out to us at thehomeimpodcast.com. On Twitter, we're at Home Impodcast, facebook.com/Home Impodcast. Our email is homeimpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, we're going to revamp that a little bit coming up and get some of your guys' input to see what you guys might like. But there's still special episodes like the Jungle to Jungle episode that you'll get access to. Perhaps a sticker will be sent your way, and you'll be helping us out, doing us a solid, and buying us a cup of coffee or supporting the storage costs. So you can do that at patreon.com/homeimpodcast, or there is a support tab on our website. So... and if you want to leave us a review, perhaps that's the way you could support us as well.
Did we get a new review of late? Have we?
Not yet.
I feel like we should. In the wake of what we just did, we should.
Yeah.
Social media, Twitter. I guess we haven't recorded in a while, so there's been a lot that's gone down. I don't have anything I necessarily want to isolate, but I would just again thank everybody for reaching out with the Karn questions. We got a lot of likes and retweets on some of that stuff lately, so it's been exciting. And I think over the last week we've gotten 10 or 11 new followers, which is obviously good. Always good to bring in new followers, new listeners. People will continue to listen to the pilot, and we really appreciate it. I don't have anything necessarily specific to say, but just thanks everyone for continuing to interact with us. It's enjoyable for me, to be sure.
Absolutely,
so,
yeah. Yep. So I guess the next episode is going to be "I'll See You in My Dreams," and
that's a good title. It's a good title.
It is good. Yeah, we're not going to be able to come up with anything better than that. But as we promised, we're going to have a special guest host, guest story coming up at the end of this episode. So stay tuned for that. Adam, do you have anything to impart on that?
Yeah. So I guess I did this like a month ago. We set some things up. So again, this is me telling the story of the time my family stayed at the hotel with the cast of Home Improvement. They were filming a specific episode. I go into some details. Like we said at the beginning, some things have changed, obviously. We didn't have the foresight that we do now. But I hope you enjoy it. Thank you again for supporting us through these first 50 episodes. We hope to continue to bring in more guest stars and do more cool interviews like that. Please support the show, things like that. And enjoy this exclusive. So without further ado, here you go. All right, so for this 50th episode extravaganza...
Man, it's an extravaganza, all right.
It is extravagance at its finest. We wanted to talk about something, or specifically I want to talk about something that I've been teasing for quite a while. Or I was teasing in the beginning, and then I think I kind of stopped talking about it.
And, I mean, everyone forgot, including me.
Yeah, a lot of people, I sometimes forget this, but I, in fact, I met Zachary Ty Bryan. I was staying at the same hotel as the cast of Home Improvement when I was but a young boy, but 7 years old. So today, for this 50th episode extravaganza, I'm going to finally, I'm going to detail the dirt. I'm going to drop it like it's hot. So, Jordan, you're excited for it?
Yeah, I've been chomping at the bit waiting for this because I mean, we talked about this a couple times on air and off air, and we talked about when are we going to talk about this? Are we going to wait till we get to the episode? Are we going to wait until?
I didn't know that it's season 7, episode 1, and the reason we're doing it now is full disclosure: we may not get to season 7.
Hey!
That's 100. It's a lot of episodes from now. So rather than kind of wait and hope that we get there, we want to do it now. We're too excited to hold it any longer.
Yeah, I mean, we just passed about the year anniversary at the start of the podcast. We're at the 50th episode. It just seemed right.
So, Jordan, let me tell you a little bit.
Lay it on me.
Let me play it again for you, Sam. So the episode, I had to do some digging myself. So The episode that they filmed up in Traverse City, which was where we were staying, was called Quest for Fire, and it was the episode season premiere of season 7. Sorry, and the episode itself, I'll just read a quick synopsis just for background. The Taylor family vacations in northern Michigan. Tim announces he wants the family to move there. Jill and the boys are not as enthused as Tim expected. Tim realizes he needs to change and grow. So that was the episode. I remember watching the episode because we were very excited. We're kind
You
of.
thought you'd be on the camera or something?
It was a possibility. But the episode itself is a real stinker. Actually, it's not funny at all.
It doesn't sound like it's going to be funny.
Even Explorer DS, and I'm not going to read that review. At the end, Explorer DS, all caps, says bad jokes. So
when Explorer DS doesn't like it, you know it's bad.
It's and there's 3 very long paragraphs that go before that.
That's
but
what we've come to expect from Explorer DS.
It's not especially good. It is like kind of a bummer in a way that some of the later Home Improvement episodes are. But essentially, here's kind of what I remember happening. We were staying at a hotel in Traverse City. I don't remember why. It was some sort of a vacation, and it wasn't an especially fancy hotel. My family lives somewhat modestly, I would say. And slowly we heard word that the cast of Home Improvement was there. And we hadn't really seen anything. We tried to, my sister, myself, and then her friend Heidi, not a listener of the show.
And not Heidi from the show either.
No, that's not funny. Tried to sneak on the floor and tried to sneak on the floor that we thought they were on and find them, but it wasn't really happening. Well, that all ended when we go down to the game room, Jordan. I was 7.
You definitely go down to the game room.
No, game rooms and arcades. I mean, when we were young.
What was in the? Do you remember what was in the game room? Was it a lot of like skee ball, or was it?
Well, I know that there was a pool table because when we walked into the room, that's where we saw Zachary Ty Bryan shooting pool,
playing the billiards
with his bodyguard, I guess. A larger African American man, and maybe it was a friend. I don't know. He was like 40, but he was hanging out with Zachary Ty Bryan. I was there in my Batman pajamas. Just kind of being a 7-year-old, doing those things. My sister, she's 10 years older. She'd been 17 at the time. Her friend older, and my memory of it is we were all just kind of interacting with Zachary Ty Bryan. There was some swearing. He was swearing quite a bit, I would say.
Your virgin years.
Yeah, I know. I thought, well, my childhood's ruined. And that's kind of really all I remember from that night. The next day, we never saw the adult cast as it stands, but we did see the kids. We saw them leave, and a crowd had gathered around. There was Mark. I have no memory of him at all, as is true to most of our episodes. There was Brad again. I believe we waved and exchanged goodbyes. That could be completely false.
You guys became pen pals?
But, yes. And there was Randy, and I remember distinctly Randy was holding a Tickle Me Elmo. So,
sure, the craze at the time.
Want to feel old?
Oh my goodness, my brother had a Tickle Me Elmo, and that thing, wow, it was a whirlwind. It stormed through America.
Yeah, so that is a version of the story. That's my version. That's what I remember. But Jordan, I was but 7.
You were but 7. So I think we need to do a little bit more digging here.
I think we need
more eyewitnesses.
We need someone else that was there. Someone else.
We couldn't get the bodyguard.
The bodyguard just is not available. The bodyguard may have also been a figment of my imagination, so I'm not entirely sure. But Jordan, what we're going to do for this 50th episode extravaganza is we're going to have our first ever, dare I say, guest host or third party come in. Usually it's just you and I, and that's the way we like it. But today, one time only? I don't know. Maybe another time it'll happen again.
We'll see.
But we're bringing in my sister, Shanna, last name redacted, to come in and corroborate this story. So without further ado, we're going to bring in Shanna. All right, Home Impodcast listeners, as promised, here on the 50th episode extravaganza, we brought in our first guest host, and it is my older sister, Shanna. Shanna, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, wow. So sweet. Sweet as always. So, Shan, we want to talk today about what happened on the fateful day when we met
Allegedly.
Oh, yes. Jordan is here as well, allegedly. The fateful day we met Zachary Ty Bryan. I want to kind of corroborate my story and just kind of get it. You were 17 at the time. I was 7, so that's 10 years difference, and that's substantial.
Yeah, there's one of you I'm going to believe, and one I'm not. So no pressure.
Fair enough.
Jury's still out.
Yeah.
So Shanna, first question, not really related to what happened that night, but related to our show at large or as a whole. What are your experiences with Home Improvement, or what are your thoughts on Home Improvement?
That's a really interesting question.
Oh,
I gotta say, it was a big part of my growing up. It was one of those shows that was always on. It was something the family looked forward to. We always watched it together. So it was a big part of growing up. I think it kind of brought the family together, lots of laughter. Yeah.
I can just see the whole clan like just gathering around the big old TV. You got the fire going, and then there's Tim and friends. It's
really funny that you say that because I don't remember that at all.
Really?
I guess a little bit.
I think you've watched a lot more of them in reruns.
Yeah.
You know, maybe at the time you were little, but maybe now those reruns kind of help you sort of attach to those memories a little bit, you know?
I think that's expert analysis
this
there.
This is as deep as we've ever gotten. So you do, you do like it. It was, you were a teen in the 90s, was it real popular as you were?
It was, yeah.
And so,
I feel like it was more, gosh, I should have looked at the years, but if memory serves, I feel like it was more like my middle school / early high school years.
It ran 91 to 98. So.
Yeah, there we go.
Formative years.
Exactly. It was really popular, though. Everybody, you'd go into school the next day, especially like
everyone was grunting.
Everybody was talking about it. On the episodes.
It was like the Mad Men of your generation, sort of. Just a lot of big plot twists and turns. And so
exactly. And I did want to just mention one thing that in preparation for my role in tonight's podcast, I did install a screen on my bedroom window.
Oh my goodness. That's more than Adam and I have ever done home improvement-wise.
That's a reoccurring gag. It's just how little we can actually do.
We're very inept as far as helping around the house and doing things.
You install the screen. Yeah, you've got us beat immediately. Is this your first podcast appearance? I should have asked.
Gosh, I guess it must be. I can't think of any others.
You sound like a seasoned professional.
Yeah, you do. You speak
Thanks,
very well.
Guys.
Okay, so let's talk about the actual night. So I set up a little bit. The episode was called Quest for Fire. They filmed it in Traverse City, season 7, episode 1. So it was the premiere of that season, and it debuted on September 23rd, 1997. So that means that they probably filmed it during the summer of 1997. So Shanna, what do you remember about us being up there in Traverse City? Why were we there, or what do you know about that specifically?
Dietz family, little summer weekend getaway, I guess. Adam, Shanna's good friend Heidi, Mom and Dad. And yeah, we were just up there. It's a little weird to me that we were staying at the Holiday Inn because I feel like that was quite a nice hotel, and I don't know. I'm a little surprised that we sprung for the Holiday Inn.
I'm going to say there's already two dissenting opinions here because Adam said it was not a particularly nice hotel, and you say it was.
Okay. No, here's the deal. Adam is right. It wasn't like it was. All right. It was fancy for the Dietz family, but it wasn't fancy enough to be on Home Improvement.
Okay. All right.
That makes sense.
You're painting a picture of the Dietz family, and I kind of like it.
In the setup for the show, I did say that we lived modestly, so I was surprised that we had stayed in a Holiday Inn at Traverse City, as opposed to just driving up for the day and then driving.
Right, exactly. Or that we stayed in the same hotel that some pretty famous people stayed in.
I mean, for goodness sake, you brought Heidi. You brought a friend, and that's
true. That's true.
I doubt she paid her own way.
Yeah, she must not have. We must have all been in one hotel room. I don't remember a lot about the actual room. No. I remember some of the facilities. I think there was a nice pool, and it was right on the water.
Oh.
So those things kind of jump out. But really, I think the entire experience and everything about the hotel is sort of clouded over because of the great star sightings that we had.
Naturally.
Yeah, I mean, they were, and great star sightings is really the only way you can describe it. So we've talked about why we were there. I talked a little bit about the hotel, Holiday Inn on the beach. So, with regards to the star sightings, how do you think we found out that they were there, or what was the buzz like, or the mood overall?
I don't feel like we picked up on any kind of a buzz at all. But, I might not have quite the right memory of this. It has been about 2 decades. Mm-hmm. But I remember, if memory serves, the first time we saw any of them was when we were getting on the elevator. Mm-hmm. And Heidi and Adam and I hop on the elevator. The elevator doors open. And who's standing there other than Brad from Home Improvement? Really big deal.
A shock. I mean, shocking.
Huge shock. So Brad's in the elevator along with either, I guess, one bodyguard. Yeah. And the mood was a little tense, I'll be honest. I don't have, we get on there and we're kind of like, wow, is this really happening? And then he was not as excited to see us.
Okay. All right.
Neither of them were.
At this time, Brad is what? Brad's a teenager, right?
I would say Brad is about the same age as Shanna is.
Oh, so you were probably into him.
Or do you think he was a little bit younger?
He was a little younger.
You were still probably into him, though.
Yeah, not really. He was he was probably 2 years younger, and when you're in high school, 2 years younger, it's kind of a big deal.
That's too much.
So, anyway, but it was still really exciting. I mean, this was probably, I feel like this is one of the first big celebrities that I had encountered in my life.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah, so the elevator. All right, so we get on the elevator. He's there with a bodyguard. He's not especially friendly.
No.
But we've got to give him the benefit of the doubt. 15 years old, probably. So, yeah.
Right.
I guess that probably checks out. So I remember us, you, me, Heidi, trying to find out more information about where they were staying and sneaking onto a floor, trying to find out what floor they were on. Do you have any recollection of that?
I don't.
Okay. All right. Next question.
doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Adam made that up in his head. He wrote that in his journal, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, in the dream I have, I'm wearing like a trench coat, and I have like a big magnifying glass, and I'm like a gumshoe type. So
we should also say that like before we got onto the call, Adam had mentioned Heidi, but you didn't remember Heidi initially being there. So
it's true. Although now, ever since Adam mentioned it, I'm recalling some specific photographs that came from that little up north vacation that we took.
How convenient!
And I can confirm that Heidi was there.
All right. I might need to see the photographs myself to believe it.
Photographic evidence.
All right, so sneaking on the floor may or may not have happened, but something we know definitely happened was that there was another meeting with Brad. Down in some sort of a game room, an arcade, which is bad news for any teenager, or at least was viewed that way in the 90s, I feel like. So we go downstairs, and Brad's playing pool. There's a bodyguard, and it's really just the three of us, Brad and his bodyguard, right?
Yeah, so we go into the game room, and I don't remember if we had gone in there specifically because we knew he was going to be in there. I don't think so, but can't confirm.
Yeah.
But we went in there and we were really excited to see that he was in there. But he didn't really give us the time of day. He was doing his thing, playing pool. I mean, he's a celebrity.
Yeah.
We were just some local kids.
Do you think he remembered you from the elevator meeting?
Yeah,
I do.
That hotel was not very busy. That's something I distinctly remember. I feel like I didn't see a lot of other guests.
Okay.
So pretty sure he would have remembered having run into us on the elevator.
Yeah. So Brad was there. He's not super friendly, but there was some conversation, right? He was doing some teenage swearing. Some 15-year-old parents are away swearing, right?
I don't remember that part, but I take your word for it. You were 7, so you were probably more attuned.
Hyper to swearing. Do you remember any conversations that were had? Any kind of back and forths?
I don't remember the specific conversation, but I do know that we kind of talked to him, or I don't know that we talked to him, but I feel like he kind of talked to us a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like while he was playing pool, might have given us a little bit of monologue about what he was doing or something. Maybe he was calling the pocket.
Yeah,
considered it
7-ball corner pocket.
Did you feel like he was putting on a show for you older girls, or not really?
I hadn't thought about it at the time. Doubt that we were like, I don't know. I just wouldn't imagine that we would have been quite what he was looking for.
You weren't his type.
I'm not sure that we were, and I kind of would guess that we weren't like on top of our game at that point in terms of our attire or, kind of overall appearances. So even if we had been his type, I'm not sure if he would have picked up on that, in the arcade. I did not feel any kind of sparks flying or anything.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
What might have been.
Yeah, I know. I shouldn't. Looking back, Heidi and I probably should have done more with this. We should have tried harder, but what could have been, right?
Yeah, we're just simpletons from Davison,
That's right. I know. It was
all right, so around this time, I know that I got an autograph from him because it's in my autograph collection that I kept for most of my life, added to autographs like Leo Elvis Days, Cal Penn, Zachary Ty Bryan, kind of the titans of the
Keira Knightley, I believe, is also in that.
Oh, wow, yeah, Keira Knightley. You did get me a Keira Knightley autograph. That actually is the biggest one.
Okay,
so I know he autographed some stationery, some Holiday Inn stationery of mine.
That sounds about right.
Do you remember that at all? Probably not.
No, but I believe you.
Okay, fair. Well, it's all right. Because someone believes me. Everybody says I forged it, but I know.
Yeah, I don't believe anything he says, so at least somebody believes him.
Got it.
I'm gonna post a picture of it when we release this episode.
Yeah, you know how to use Photoshop, so I don't believe that either.
Yeah, you're right. I could totally doctor that. All right, so we were only at the hotel. I don't know how long we were at the hotel, but I remember we only saw the kids, right? We never saw any adults, correct?
So I feel like the next morning. Mm-hmm. We were in the process of checking out, and we were kind of lingering in the lobby. Dad was probably settling the bill or something, and all of a sudden, like the whole cast went by. Now, Tim the Toolman himself did not. We did not see him. However, we definitely saw Al. We saw all the children. I might be wrong here, but I swore that we saw Wilson, but we probably didn't.
Okay.
But for some reason in my mind, I feel like we did. But we definitely saw Al and the other kids. Jill, was she there?
I only remember seeing the kids.
Might have just been Al and the kids then.
Okay, all right. Do you remember what Randy was holding as he left?
very specific.
It's a very specific memory.
Wow, I would have assumed a duffel bag.
Wrong.
Not a trick question. He was holding a Tickle Me Elmo, I remember. Very distinctly.
Hi, wasn't he too old for that?
No, nobody's too old for that.
Well, I think Tickle Me Elmos were popular old and young.
Yeah, you might be right. That's probably true. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I don't remember that, but okay.
It seems like something she should remember, Adam.
It does. Maybe this is like the sneaking under the floor thing where it's just, I want to.
Are you sure you weren't carrying the Tickle Me Elmo?
All of the memories just got pushed together.
So they left. So Al was there. I never.
Yeah, Al was definitely there. Al and the three kids, and it was really exciting seeing JTT because he at the time, I think he had just done Lion King or something, or like was about to do Lion King. He was a huge deal, so that was really exciting. And then at that point, I feel like we were kind of trying to linger a little bit to see if we could see, Tim the Toolman and the others, but that didn't happen.
All right. Do you remember watching the episode after?
I do. I remember seeing the episode, and I remember thinking that they didn't have as much footage.
Yeah.
From that as I thought they might. I thought
that sounds about right.
The entire thing. Yeah, I guess that's how TV shows work. You spend a lot of time filming something and then you just use a little bit. But yeah, I definitely remember it. I feel like there might have been some water skiing that happened in the episode. Probably should have rewatched this episode before.
Yeah, I didn't either. We're supposed to cover it in like 2 years if the podcast continues. We're supposed to cover it, so we didn't watch it in preparation.
Got it. Okay, we'll watch it then.
Yeah, I know Tim has a midlife crisis. I've read that in the Cliff's Notes. So
in that specific episode.
Yeah, it's poignant. That's why he wanted to move up there. That was his plan.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Sounds like we all better get around a fire.
That's right. I'll pop the popcorn.
Yeah. Start watching this one again.
All right. So anything else related to that you remember that you feel like sharing or that maybe we didn't get to? Any other thoughts?
I mean, really, I think it was just what a big deal it was for us. It was just really exciting. It, going up to Traverse City for the weekend for us, not a humongous deal, but then these star sightings that happened along with it, all of a sudden this went from being, your average little family weekend getaway to being kind of a super memorable experience that we obviously have continued to carry with us decades.
Kind of a super memorable experience.
Podcast fodder for 20 years into the future.
Exactly.
Where does Zachary Ty Bryan rank on the list of celebrities that you've met?
She's not prepared for this one.
Yeah.
I'd say he's probably, he's not at the top, I guess.
Careful, he might listen to our podcast.
Very diplomatic answer, I would say. He's not at the top. Well, that's fair.
He's not necessarily at the top, but at the time, it was a big deal. So I don't want to downplay it. It was a big thing.
If he was nicer to you, maybe you would put him higher on the list.
I think you might be right. Yeah, the entire experience was a little bit. I was a little bit miffed that he wasn't friendlier.
Well, we might try to repair that relationship. We interact a little bit on Twitter, right, Adam?
Yeah, we interact with them every once in a while on Twitter. So maybe somewhere down the road, I can envision a podcast where Zachary Ty Bryan is on one line, Jordan's on one line, and Shanna, you're back on another line, and we're kind of confronting this head on.
I'll be ready, guys.
And I'm sure he'll remember it just as well as we remember.
I think so. Let's heal some old wounds.
All right. So I think in closing, Shanna, by the time this episode debuts, you will perhaps have had a second child. So I'm wondering if you have thought about any home improvement related names for the baby.
Wow, we are really still searching for that perfect boy name. Yeah. So, I guess there are several good boy names to choose from among the cast members. Yeah. I haven't really considered
Brad,
this.
Mark, Tim, Al. I mean, any of those.
I think Wilson for sure.
It's a largely male cast, so
it is. It really is. I hadn't really given them the time of day, but I think it's time. I'm gonna mull it over tonight.
Okay. Good choice.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I think we've done it justice. We've recounted two different perspectives. Jordan, are you satisfied?
I've never been more satisfied in my life.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me one bit. All right. Well, Shanna, thanks so much for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it.
Guys, it was my pleasure. Really nice way to wrap up my weekend here, and I appreciate that you thought of having me for your first guest celebrity appearance.
Yeah, first, not the last, though. We hope to have you back.
Come back anytime to, recount some of those good old family memories.
Yeah, that's what the show's all about. All right. So, Jordan, thank you for joining me. Shanna, thank you for joining me. Listeners, thank you for listening. And I guess I should say take care.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.